reason we are doing that is because yesterday we had the news of Igor Tudor being kind of agreeing with Spurs that he was going to leave. Obviously, we're going to speak about that. However, that doesn't mean that we just forget about the thing we were going to talk about yesterday. We just come back to it today. Now, I first of all want to say hello to all the lovely people in the house. I see Rob, I see Gaz, I see Chris and his coffee, I see Mama Flossie. We got all the lovely people in the chat. Guys, please do remember to smash a like on the video, get involved in the chat. And yeah, that's it. We're going to have a little chat. I see the guys in the chat are saying that we are 1 off 500 subscribers, which is a little disappointing because this morning we had 501, which means 2 teacups have left the tea party since about 10 o'clock this morning, which is a little bit disappointing because, as you guys know, 500 is the magic number. But yeah, apparently people are subbing and then immediately unsubbing, which is a little bit disappointing. But look, what can we do? Huge is also in the house, so good afternoon to Huge. Now, what we're going to talk about today, it is Jamie Carragher and Mo Salah, but only kind of. I'm not really going to be delving into too much whether I agree, disagree with the opinion, what I think of Salah, etc. It's not actually what I want the conversation to be about. I think it raises a different conversation, which means I want to put a poll in the chat. Welcome to lovely FK. FK subbed yesterday from Don Hassam, along with some of the other lovely people from Don Hassam's channel. So for anybody that is here from Don Hassam's channel, welcome. This might be your first live stream for some of you. Welcome to the Madhouse and the tea party. But let me do this poll for you because I am not organised this morning. So let's start a poll. Sorry guys, you know I can't type and talk at the same time. I'm sure this is very interesting, you just listening to my keyboard, but honestly, I can't do both at the same time. It is a lie that I can multitask. I cannot. So yes, no. Start poll. It's a very simple poll because I'm typing it as I'm speaking to you guys, and let's face it, I don't want to get that all wrong. So, do the legends of a team owe anything to the club or the fans after they retire? The 2 options are yes or no. Normally I have a fun option in there. Normally I like to change it up, but guys, you didn't need to see me, my concentration face, any longer than you absolutely had to, because let's face it, it's not my best face. But obviously, we have had Jamie Carragher and the Mo Salah kind of thing ongoing for years and years and years, really. It's kind of been put out that Jamie Carragher isn't a big fan of Mo Salah, that he kind of criticises him more than others, etc, etc. I'm not going to get involved in that debate. There seems to be something to it, but I think that's for Liverpool fans really to discuss. I'm not going to go in on it. But what's kind of caused a kerfuffle again recently is obviously Mo Salah released the video saying that he's going to be leaving Liverpool at the end of the season. In the summer, he's going to be taking his leave of Liverpool. That's been quite emotional for a lot of Liverpool fans because while he has dropped off massively this season, he has been such an important player for both them and the Premier League. Very, very talented player. And it's hard when something comes to an end, even if you know it's the right thing to do. So, for example, like Casemiro was leaving at the end of this season, and he hasn't been at Manchester United anywhere near the time Mo Salah has been at Liverpool. But he has been a very important player for us. He's a great personality. We loved, like, do you know what I mean? We love him so much. When he retires at the end of the season, or when he kind of retires from Manchester United at the end of the season, I'm going to be really sad. I'm going to be really sad that he's leaving, but I also think it's the right decision for him because if he stays another season and he's not very good, I want him to go out on a high. I don't want him to go out on a low. And I think if Mo Salah continued at Liverpool, I think it would get worse after this season. So I think it's the right decision for him, and I also think it's the right decision for the club. I think it's the right decision for everyone involved that he goes at the end of this season, regardless of how it's come about. I think it's the right decision in the end for both involved, okay? But I think it was like 2 days after Salah put out his video saying goodbye to the fans and letting them know he was going to be leaving and announcing the fact that he was going to be leaving Liverpool, there was a video put out by Liverpool, by like the official Liverpool sort of channels, of Jamie Carragher doing a list of his top all-time Liverpool players, okay? And on this list, he put Gerrard number 1 and Salah number 6. The thing is, it's the timing. Like, people, that might have made people angry anyway, because they feel that he has an agenda against Salah and they don't like him anyway, and they might think he was being undervalued, etc., etc. So it's not that it wouldn't have ruffled feathers anyway, but the timing of it to come out literally days after Salah announces that he's going to be leaving Liverpool feels a bit like kicking a puppy when it's down. Do you know what I mean? It feels a bit like insult to injury, salt in the wound. You know all the sayings. It felt the timing was a little bit wrong, okay? And Jamie Carragher has had an awful amount of stick over this. He's had all sorts. And I just want to share one of these here. So let me just share this. So this here was a tweet by this person, Victor Fatanmi, by Fa here, who says, poor timing to publish a list that puts Gerrard as number 1 and Salah as number 6, ranked by one of Salah's biggest critics. Terrible timing, terrible job, Liverpool Football Club. Now, Jamie Carragher has quote tweeted this and said, it's not poor timing from anyone. I did this interview before Salah announced his decision, then went on the overlap a day after the Salah announcement and brought up I'd put him in 6th on the Liverpool list. The club decided to put it out before I gave away my full list. He also goes into the comments saying, I'm not one of his biggest critics. When have I ever criticised Salah the player? I said he's the second best foreign player ever in the Premier League. You and plenty of others don't know enough about the club's history and are being disrespectful to other players on that list. Oh my goodness, you can't see it. You can't see it. Thank you for letting me know that, FK. Right, there you go. There you go. I was just testing you. I wanted to see who was paying attention. It's not that I have gremlins in my machine. I am good with the tech. So that was the original tweet. This is Jamie Carragher's quote tweet. And then this is Jamie Carragher's comment that I just read out. So let me read some more of your comments and see if I've missed something else. And then we will talk about that, okay? Let me see. Let me scroll up. There's so many people chatting, so let me scroll up. So FK is saying, yes, I think they do. Proper conduct and some understanding towards the current team. You don't have to agree with everything happening, but don't add fuel to the fire. Huge is saying, I think the minimum requirement is to be respectful. And FK is agreeing with what I said, that it is the right decision for everyone for Salah to move on. Regardless of everything else around it, the decision itself was the right one. FK is saying Kara's video was pre-recorded way before Salah announced it. The timing is sus though. Flossie is saying Carragher is just trying to stay relevant. Chris is saying, I'll caveat my vote with this. They don't owe anything to the club and fans. However, true legends will support their clubs after retirement because of their love for the club, and Flossie agrees with that. FK is saying, I think people are also forgetting who was heavily against Salah when he did the interview. I think it would be fake of him to prop him more than he normally would. Jenny is in the house. Hello to Jenny. There's some really good points in here. I'm going to come back to them all. I'm just going to read through and then we're going to come back to some of the points. Huge is saying, to be fair to Jamie, as much as I hate to do that, but he was asked on the overlap, where does he rank Salah after the announcement? Let me see. Yeah, YouTube's being a bit of a pain in the bejesus at the minute, to be honest with you. Let me see. Okay, we're all laughing at YouTube. So there's a few really, really good points in there. So let us go back to them. Now, I want to finish up kind of on Jamie Carragher, because then I want to open up kind of that it's not just specifically about Liverpool and Jamie. This is what has started the conversation. So I want to cover this and then I want to open it up to talk about just in general, okay? Which is why I've put the poll in the way I have. You have often heard me speak about the Manchester United legends that have turned into pundits, the way they speak about the club, how I feel about how they speak about the club, etc., etc. So it just opens up a wider conversation, I think. Now, what I will say is, it seems to be a long-standing understanding that Jamie doesn't necessarily rate Salah as much as a lot of other people do, and he seems to just have taken a bit of a dislike to him. He hasn't taken a shine to him. Now, there's so many layers to all of this. I suppose for me, punditry, yes, it's expert opinion, but it is opinion. So if he just doesn't take a shine to him the way a lot of other people do, that's his opinion. He's allowed to have that opinion. You don't have to like it, but he is allowed to have that opinion. He's being paid to give his opinion. For example, a lot of people in the Manchester United fan base, and it's not a comparable player, but it's just an example. A lot of people at the minute in the Manchester United fan base absolutely love Kobbie Mainoo. They love him. They think he's the second coming. They wanted Amram sacked because he wouldn't play him. They think he's the best thing since sliced bread. I personally don't think he's all that. I think he's decent, and I think that's about it. I certainly don't think he's world class. I don't think he's going to be anything special, and I think in 10 years, nobody is going to be talking about Kobbie Mainoo. Maybe I'll be completely wrong, but that's my opinion. I'm allowed to have it, and you're allowed to disagree with it. So I'm never going to argue with people having an opinion just because it's unpopular or it's not the same opinion as everybody else. I think sometimes where Jamie runs into trouble is where he comes out and says, I'm not one of his biggest critics. When have I ever criticised Salah the player? If he just come out and said, look, he's a talented player, he's not really my cup of tea, I don't take to him the way I take to some other players, it's just a personal preference, I think people maybe still wouldn't like it, but there might be a little bit more alright, fair enough, at least he's just saying it. Whereas I think it's this thing where he's no, I don't have a dislike for him. No, I'm not. I completely like him, totally the same as everybody else. I think that's where people get frustrated because they're but you don't. You just don't. So just say it. Do you know what I mean? So I think the opinion is fair. I think the expression of the opinion is fair because it's what he's paid to do. I think the fact that he then pretends that it's not different, I think is interesting and actually is what gets him the most flack. If he had just not said that, he probably wouldn't get quite as much stick. What I will say is, these things do get pre-recorded way in advance. There's no way this was recorded after the announcement. And there's definitely no way Jamie has control over when Liverpool release it. Liverpool will be in charge of when Liverpool release it. Now, what he says is that the interview was done before Salah announced the decision, which will absolutely be factually correct. He then says at the end of the tweet, the club decided to put it out before I gave away my full list. So basically they didn't want him giving spoilers out. The club decided when this was going to be released. That can't be held against him. So the fact that, I know we did an interview, was it last last season where he said, well, if he achieves ABC, then I'll consider him one of the best players of Liverpool of all time. And now he's come out and said, well, no, he's 6. So he's contradicting himself. So again, that invites criticism because he's put in parameters and then he's not standing in his own parameters. So I can understand the frustration with that because he's saying one thing and then he's doing another. However, he's not in control of when this video was released. That is down to Liverpool, and it's a really, really, really weird time to put that out. It's really strange from the club. So yes, Carragher is a bit controversial. Yes, he absolutely doesn't help himself, and sometimes he says silly things. 100%. Sometimes he does silly things. But the posting of the video itself is down to the club. And I'm sorry, there's absolutely no way that nobody in Liverpool Football Club knew that this was going to be the reaction to that being released days after Salah announces he's going to leave. So they've released that knowing that this fallout's going to happen. They've released that fully aware of the storm they're going to create, which makes me wonder why. They're not stupid. They've done it on purpose. Why? What benefit can they possibly get out of this? There's a reason they've done it. Big business people don't make storms for no reason. So to me, they're trying to distract from something. I'm curious what it is. But let me see what you guys are saying, because I'm rambling away here and I can see the comments are on fire. And I want to know what you think. Rob is saying, I know they don't owe their clubs anything, but I think they should at least be respectful. FK is saying he's entitled to his opinion. I think the back and forth between him and Salah FC is unnecessary. Salah's achievements speak for themselves at the end of the day. Flossie is saying they wouldn't be who they are without the club, so yes, be respectful. And yeah, I agree with that, FK. People accusing him and others of xenophobia over this is also adding fuel to the fire. And again, it's not the same thing, but it's like, particularly in the YouTube space or like in the social media space, if you have an opinion that's different to somebody else's, it's an agenda. It's not just a different opinion, it's an agenda. If you don't like a player from a certain place, it's racism or it's xenophobia or it's this. It's never just an opinion. Now, I would never, ever, ever, ever condone hatred of any kind to any person from any country or any race, okay? It's wrong completely. The abuse is wrong. However, having an opinion, I don't like this player as much as another player, that is a personal opinion. That is not like xenophobic or racist or an agenda. You're allowed to have an opinion. Not everything has to be drilled into and made into something it's not. So I agree, and I think it does add fuel to the fire, because people then don't want to say anything, because if they say anything, you get hopped on, and then people start to become defensive, and when people are defensive, you can't have a proper conversation. And like I've said this regularly on the channel here from I started it, I won't allow any rage bait at all. I don't care how long it takes the channel to grow, there will not be rage bait on the channel. We'll have a chat, we'll have an exchange of opinions, we'll agree, we'll disagree, we'll have a laugh. Rage bait's a no-no. And the reason for that is there's so much heightened emotion on the internet at the minute. There's so much, everything is a debate to the death. Everything is so serious. Sometimes it's okay to just have a conversation. Sometimes you can just talk to people and you might have a different opinion and you can have a conversation, and at the end of it you can go, okay, we still have different opinions, but it was an interesting conversation. There you go. Like, the world hasn't ended. So I just think everything's mountains out of molehills at the minute, I think. Shem is here. He says, afternoon, Lady Lou. Hope you're well and smiling today. Lovely Lucky is in the house saying good afternoon to everybody. Everybody is saying hi to each other. Let me see. FK, yeah, that's about the timing of the release. So he doesn't have control over the timing of the release. So I don't blame him for the release. I think the club moved a bit sus, but it is what it is. Jenny is saying Jamie has been inconsistent though. He said one thing about a Salah last year and another thing this year. And I think that's what I mean. He's allowed to have his opinion, but he doesn't help himself when he contradicts himself or when he says something that is clearly not true. So when he says I'm not one of his biggest critics, when have I ever criticized him, like that just draws unnecessary like attention to it. Because why would you say that? Like, just why would you say that? Just say, do you know what, this is my opinion, it's okay if you disagree, there you go, it's done. Or like that, if he puts in parameters, the parameters are met, and then he goes, do you know what, actually I've moved the goalpost. But you see, if he just turned out and said, do you know what, I know I said that last year, but actually now the more I think about it, that's not how I feel, people would go, do you know what, at least he's acknowledging it. He doesn't help himself, but he is still entitled to his opinion. It's just the way sometimes he puts his opinion across. Let me see. Yes, agree. People are allowed to have preferences. Did I see Kate and Jimbo in there as well? Is Kate and Jimbo here? Yes, Mama Flossie. Micro-analysis over every game is spoiling proper football chat. And not just every game, everything, every opinion, every person, every player, every manager, every match, everything. Everything is just micro, like, it's not needed. It's not needed. Yes, I did see lovely Kate and Jimbo. Welcome, guys, into the chat. Thank you for being here. But what this has done for me is it's kind of, it's opened up, I suppose, a bigger conversation for me, because I've spoken to you guys before on the channel about the Manchester United legends. We speak about like Gary Neville, we speak about Roy Keane. More recently, we've been speaking about Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt. Like, there's a lot, there's actually, like Wayne Rooney's doing it now, but I'm not going to speak on him because he hasn't said anything crazy. But I mean, Manchester United have a lot of legends, ex-players that are currently in the punditry world, and most of them are less than kind to Manchester United. I know Gary Neville is not particularly popular as a pundit with other fan bases. As a United fan, I don't like him as a pundit. I think he almost, for me, he's trying so hard to be neutral, he goes the other direction sometimes for me. If you said to me, who did he used to play for, and I didn't know anything about football, I'm not picking Manchester United. Do you know what I mean? Paige is in the house. Welcome, Paige. We haven't seen you in a little bit. Welcome back. But yeah, so like then we have Roy Keane. Now, I loved Roy Keane growing up. I loved Roy Keane most of my adulthood. I'm finding in the last 6 months, and obviously Roy Keane's mommy passed away, so like RIP to her, and obviously that's a very sad time for him. But I'm finding in the last little while, I'm starting to dislike Roy Keane a little bit, because he's very bitter, he's very angry. I feel like he's becoming a caricature of himself, and he's spoiling it. Do you know what I mean? Nicky Butt, I have no time for whatsoever, and Paul Scholes will say whatever comes into his mind to promote this new podcast he has with Nicky Butt. So I'm not really a fan of any of our legends speaking about our club, because for the most part they're a bit of a miserable bunch. Now, Rio Ferdinand, he loves the club. He loves the club. I think sometimes he's a bit of a dope, but he does love the club. Like David Beckham doesn't speak about it very often, but he does love the club. But I find he's very PR focused, David Beckham. And so again, we've quite a mix. Then obviously when you look at City, you've got Micah Richards, and then when you look at Arsenal, you've got Thierry Henry and Ian Wright. And I don't know how you guys feel, but for me, I think of all the ex-players that have turned pundits, I actually think Arsenal have the best ones, because even though there were Arsenal players, I quite like Ian Wright. He's a really likeable person. He seems like a nice person. I don't like Thierry Henry, but that's more for Ireland reasons than for anything else. His hand, no, I'm not a fan. But as a pundit, I think he's very good. So I think out of them all, the Arsenal ones seem to make the least negative waves for their clubs. Now, I've said before that I feel that the legends of a club, not that they owe something, but that I would prefer if they would like shut their mouth if they're not going to be helpful. But that's a fan point of view. That's my like, you know, the fan in me is like, if you're not helping, you're hurting. If you've nothing nice to say, shut up. You should love this club. You played for this club. You've given a part of your life to this club. Like, why do you hate it so much? And it's frustrating and I want them to stop. However, if I attempt to remove myself from my fandom and I just look at it as a person, their job is to give their opinion, their genuine opinion. So if they're given their genuine opinion, can I criticize them? I cannot like it. I 100% cannot like it. But they were employed by the club. During their employment, they were paid their wages and they did their work. Now they've left and they've got a different employment. They're paid by somebody else. They've got a new employer. That employer is paying for their opinions. Can we expect them not to give their opinions because of their old employment? And I know as fans it's emotional for us, but just as a like logical level, does it make sense? I'm undecided because I hate the way our legends talk about our club and our current team and our current managers and everything else for the most part. So part of me is like, frig it, they should have a bit of respect. They wouldn't be where they are without us. But I also think we wouldn't be where we are without a lot of them, to be fair, particularly the United ones, because like a lot of them were involved in a lot of trophies. But you get my point. I'm quite conflicted on it. I think it's a really mixed topic. But let me see what you guys are saying. Let me see. Poor Shem. Shem is struggling. Why would we ever get Spurs legends to come and save the club when we have an ex-Gooner in charge? Poor Shem. It's going to get better, Shem. It is. One of these days it's going to get better. Paige is saying, on former United players, I prefer to remember them as players, don't pay that much attention to them nowadays. To be fair, Paige, that's probably the right idea, because I find the ones I loved as players, the more they speak as pundits, I dislike them more and more. Genuinely, it's disappointing. Gaz is saying, I love Keane too, he's really not a fan of Carrick, but I think that's like a former thing. That's like something from the past that's like personal that's going on between them and the wife as well. So like, I also just think some things, you don't have to always air your dirty laundry out in public. Like, do you know what I find they're so embarrassing? But after the United ones, I have to say, Jamie Carragher is probably the one that causes the most trouble for his club, because he's forever fallen out with Salah, who would be one of their biggest players for many years now. And I actually wonder, when Salah's gone, will Jamie Carragher's relationship with Liverpool and with Liverpool fans improve because Salah's not there anymore? And sometimes, even though like I don't think people will stop loving Salah as much, do you know that out of sight, out of mind thing? The more time moves on, I wonder, will it reshape the relationship to a more positive one again, because that kind of contentious thing isn't in the way anymore. So I find that really interesting. Let me see. Kate and Jimbo. Kate loves Micah Richards. He's so funny. Huge is saying, I love Ian Wright. He seems so positive and genuine. Lucky also likes Ian Wright. He's fair and balanced football views. Kate is here with the tea today, people. It's the afternoon show and Kate has brought the tea. She says, a friend of ours is a gooner and met Henry and said he was not nice. I could see him being a little bit arrogant. But I liked, do you know what he said? Like when he was talking to Mika the other day, and like they were talking about Mika's injury and how his career ended, and I thought that was really lovely. Do you know, and if it felt heartfelt, you can tell, I'm sure it was probably a bit scripted or whatever, but it also felt like he meant it as well. But yeah, sometimes you don't want to meet people in real life. Lucky is saying, I don't take any notice of the legends. Gaz is saying, Mika Richards cracks me up. Think it's because he's always so happy and his laugh. Do you know what? He is so happy. He's just like he's definitely the happiest pundit I see out there. And I think that's lovely because it is infectious. When somebody's happy and bubbly, and do you know what I mean? It does change a whole mood around the place. So I have to say I like him as well. I actually prefer the pundits of other teams than my own, which is very interesting. That's an interesting dynamic. Let me see. Paige is saying, when I watch the Prem, I always have the sound off. I can't deal with Neville and Carragher. I actually, and this is like, I could listen to Carragher quicker than Neville, but if I was a Liverpool fan, I'm not sure I would like Carragher. And that's what I mean. Sometimes it's different because you hold your own ex-players or your own legends to a different standard than maybe you hold those from other teams. Sachin is in the house, and after hearing the discussion about Neymar, I'm of the opinion that the whole English football media and punditry needs to be shut down. I mean, maybe it's just like the PGMOL. Just shut it down and start over. Clear it all out. Gaz with a conspiracy theory. Henry often looks like he's trying to create a new meme. Kate is saying, I'm the same, Lou. I don't like Spurs pundits. And maybe that's it. We hold the people that played for our team to a different standard. We expect them to have our backs. Like, we love them. We supported them. We cheered for them. We had their names on our jerseys. Do you know what I mean? We, like, not hero worship them, but do you know what I mean? We really looked up to them and admired them. And we love our club. And so to see somebody that we really admire and think so much of and supported and poured so much of our emotions and energy into, maybe not speaking about our clubs in the way we would like or in a negative manner, it can be hurtful because you care what they think. So if what they think isn't good, it hits you a little bit more. So for me, probably I don't think they owe anything. I do think that I would prefer if they were respectful, but I don't think it's an obligation for them. Sachin, I don't mean it as a joke, Lou. My comment there was serious. How can anyone who calls himself a pundit have such a shit football take, comparing Neymar to players like Salah and Mane? That's alright, Sachin. I assumed your comment was serious. My comment about the PGMOL was serious. I'm absolutely 100% serious. I think they should get rid of everyone and I think they should start over. No, that's totally legit. Let me see. Yeah, and that's true too, Kate. It's like some YouTubers who constantly sag off the club. They're not acting like a fan. They're trying to act like a pundit. They're trying to act like, it's whatever to get the views. And obviously not everybody is like that whatsoever, but there are some accounts, and when it's your own team and people who profess to be a fan of your club, it's very frustrating, especially if they have a big platform. So like a pundit on Sky, like a YouTuber with millions of subscribers, or even hundreds of thousands is a lot, and they're saying things, and because they have such a big following, or they seem to have a big representation, when they have an opinion, it feels like it's supposed to represent a whole fan base, and that's not the case. And that can then be really contentious if people feel like, well, these things are being said, but they don't represent me. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what happens then. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a really, really tough one. It's a really interesting topic. And like I said, for me, yes, there's Carragher and Salah and Liverpool, but it opens up the wider topic of, like, is it easy to just get ex-players? oh, well, they've played the game, they know what they're talking about, then, like, let them be a pundit. But do they have to, like, do anything else? Do they have to have any sort of expertise? Do they have to... Because it feels like basically almost all of the pundits these days are ex-players. And I'm not saying being an ex-player should exclude you, but I do feel that maybe you should have to have some other requirements as well. What I would also say, though, is just because a pundit has a different opinion doesn't mean they should be sacked. Like, I would never say, oh, well, this Gary Neville has a different opinion to me, therefore he shouldn't be a pundit and he should lose his job. Because maybe loads of other people agree with him. So I don't think being an ex-player should include you or exclude you from the job. I think it can be a factor because it proves that you have a kind of an information on that role. But I think they should have more than that. So like Kate and Jimbo was saying there, they have to have media training. Is that standardised? I don't know. That's a genuine question. Would that be standardised? And maybe what we see in the pundits is like a symptom of society as a whole. They're saying the thing that's going to grab the headlines. They're saying the thing that's going to get attention. They're saying the thing that is going to get people talking. If that's genuinely what they think, I think fair enough. I might not like it, but okay, if that's your genuine opinion, I'm not going to bash you for it too much. I'll try my best. But if they're saying it just to say it, if they're saying it just to say something, if they're saying it because views are down this week, we need to say something to get attention, that's where I think myself and others have a problem with it. And I think if your aim is to just say the most contentious thing you can think of, it starts to feel disingenuous. It starts to feel like it's not real. It's all play acting. And I think that's what gets on people's kind of grates on people. If people can see you're saying something and it might not make a load of sense to them, but you genuinely mean it, they can kind of go, all right, I can sort of get on board with that. But I mean, if I think you're faking it to get attention, that's a problem. Kate is off, but she is reminding everybody to please smash that like button, people. Thank you for stopping in to the lovely Kate of Kate and Jimbo. Sachin is saying, I think most players are not media trained. Just look at Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes and you will see which one is trained and which one is not. Huge saying, the issue is that the shows will hire people who may think that just to get views, and that's true as well. Paige says, pundits are supposed to be here to inform the fans, not say stuff to make the headlines. To be fair, they're also there for their opinion. So that is also part of it. They're there to inform you and they're there to give an opinion on it. That is part of their job. I don't think they should purposely say things to get the headlines, but if their genuine opinion gets the headlines anyway, I don't think that's the issue. I think it's if their aim is to get the headlines, that's where you kind of... But it's such a grey area these days, and it's the same as everything else. Money makes the world go round. Money makes the world go round. Headlines, views, clicks get money. Therefore, they're going to... The media companies are going to encourage that kind of behaviour. Going back to Carragher, just to, I suppose, round it off. For me, I have never done a list of the all-time greats of Liverpool. I probably never will, so I don't know if I necessarily agree with his opinion or not. I think Salah's a very talented player. I think maybe, from my point of view, Carragher underrates him a little bit. I think if he was more honest about the fact that he just doesn't really rate him, people wouldn't mind so much. I think if he didn't deny that he criticises him, people probably wouldn't come at him so much. I think Liverpool's timing of releasing that video was really weird. They did it knowing it was going to cause a storm. I want to know why. There's a reason they've done that. I think overall for me with pundits, if they're given their genuine opinion, I think that's probably fair game. I don't necessarily like it. I would prefer if the pundits of the clubs they played for maybe showed a bit of loyalty, because that's what we've shown them. But by rights, if they're doing their job and being honest about their opinion, I'm probably not going to criticise it. If I feel it's disingenuous and they're saying things to get attention, which is what I said about Paul Scholes and Nikki Butt recently, that's where I'm, but do you know what, just shut up. That's just shut up. Do you know what I mean? But let me see, last few comments, guys, and then we're off, because that time absolutely flew. Let me see, where are we? FK is saying you really like Sturridge's punditry, and see, that's interesting, but again, it's going to be preference, isn't it? So sometimes the pundits I like them for their personality. I don't necessarily listen to their punditry. Maybe that's probably not the best way to pick a pundit, but you know, I like Micah Richards because he's funny and he's happy all the time. I couldn't tell you a single opinion he has, and that's not being rude to Micah. That's what I notice about people. So Ian Wright, he seems like a really nice person. Do you know what I mean? So I think he's lovely. Do I agree with all his football opinions? Probably not, though. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's interesting as well, kind of what draws us to people or away from them. Paige is saying, yeah, it is a grey area. Sachin is saying, we also have to understand that being an ex-player does not mean they qualify to say whatever they want. They have to be self-aware. No, they can't just say whatever they want, but they are entitled to have their opinion. The same as us. We're not experts, but we're still allowed to have an opinion. Chris is saying that's the problem. They're fed opinions by producers to make talking points. And I do think that's a big part of the problem. It feels scripted. It feels like they're not their real opinions, and that's what bothers people. That's what bothers people. And to be honest, that's why YouTube does well at the minute. It's a bit more, not obviously everybody, but I think in a general sense, YouTube's a bit less polished than normal media. You get overall, I think, a bit more genuine opinion, because like there's nobody in my house telling me, Lou say this, Lou say that. And no harm, no one's ever got very far telling me what to do and say. So I think that's, people don't like that kind of scripted feel to a lot of the stuff. FK is saying the list is very subjective. I'm not going to argue with the older generation if they want to put Barnes and Souness ahead of Salah. And I think that's it. A list like this is subjective. Not everybody's going to agree. I think the timing was an issue, which Liverpool have to answer for. And I think if Jamie just said, Salah's not my cup of tea, he's very good, but he's not for me, I think people would just drop it, to be honest. And Flossie is saying, yeah, like a lot of what we hear on TalkSport is scripted. Rob has gone off on a fantasy walk while we've been chatting, and he has said if we finish third and Liverpool don't make the top 5, I'll dance. FK is saying, I agree, I really like his personality too, but he also gives some good football commentary. Yeah, and so like FK is saying that's a good point from Chris. We have to remember these shows are being produced. And Sachin says, since I have ended up watching so many City games this season, I have to say Joe Hart is quite good, gives very balanced takes and tries to give the player perspective on situations. And see, that's it. That's interesting, because you feel like he's giving you an insight. He's given his opinion, but he's telling you why he feels that way. He's sort of saying, well, from my days as a player, this is my insight. It's different. It's not just somebody told him to say that. But that is us, gang. That is us. Thank you all very much for joining in. Thank you for being here, for spending some of your day with me. I am planning to be back at 7 p.m. this evening, and hopefully I will see all of you there. Have a lovely day. Smash the like if you haven't done so already, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.